Hello everyone. Welcome back to our previous discussion on the losses in DC machine. So in the last class we have discussed about the magnetic core loss, or it is also called iron loss, and also we have discussed the brush losses. In this video we are going to discuss about the mechanical losses. So the mechanical losses are actually the losses. They are associated with mechanical effects. Then they consist of bearing friction loss. They consist of bearing friction loss and windage loss. So bearing that are used at the rotating parts, we put bearing there. So whatever the friction happening at the bearing, it is the bearing friction loss, and the windage loss that we'll see in further discussion. So the windage loss are those windage loss are those associated with overcoming the friction between the moving parts of machine. And the air inside the machine for cooling purposes. So also one thing is there, these losses are usually very small. So mainly the losses are associated with the mechanical losses, and they consist of both the bearing friction loss and the windage loss. So bearing friction loss are the losses due to the friction at the bearing. Bearing are the components to for smooth movement of the rotating units. We put bearing there. So whatever the friction happening at the bearing, due to the friction, it is the bearing friction loss. Then the windage loss are those losses which are associated with overcoming the friction between the moving parts of the machine and the air inside the machine for cooling purposes. So the friction happening between the moving parts and the air that is required for cooling. So this are the overcoming friction losses. This all come in the windage loss. So both the losses, windage and the bearing loss, which is coming under the mechanical losses, this value is very small. So it is in general case for the small machine it is neglected. For large machine it is 1% of the full load. So now next is your stray load loss. It consists of all losses not covered above, means above the four losses, starting from the electrical loss, then magnetic loss, then mechanical loss, then the brush losses. The extra losses that are not covered in this topic are comes in this loss, stray load losses. So these are the these are the miscellaneous miscellaneous losses that result from such factors as, putting it like a point. First one is the distortion of flux because of armature reaction. So the miscellaneous लॉस में पहला क्या है, अलग अलग फैक्टर से लॉस आ रहा है, तो पहला फैक्टर आपका हो सकता है डिस्टॉर्शन ऑफ फ्लक्स. आपका फ्लक्स जो है नॉर्मली आपका साइनसोइडल होता है, उसमें कुछ डिस्टॉर्शन आ गया, ठीक है. सो डिस्टॉर्शन क्यों आता है? इट इज मेनली ड्यू टू द आर्मेचर रिएक्शन. देन सेकंड वन इज short circuit short circuit current in the coil undergoing commutation, etc. So next after loss होता है, it is due to the short circuit current losses in the coil that is undergoing commutation. Commutation वो प्रोसेस है जिससे कि हम लोग AC को DC में कन्वर्ट करते हैं. तो शॉर्ट सर्किट करंट इस समय आपका सर्किट में रहता है, ठीक है. तो उसके वजह से भी आपका स्टे लोड लॉस हो सकता है. देन नेक्स्ट लॉस, factors contributing to stay load losses, it is so these are only the two. There are no further loss. First one is distortion, second one is short circuit. Then as a description, these losses are very difficult to determine. Normally हम लोग इसको determine नहीं कर सकते. The indeterminate nature of the stray load losses make it necessary to assign it a reasonable value. So क्योंकि इसका जो लॉसेस है इसको एक पर्टिकुलर कोई वैल्यू नहीं होता, हम लोग इसको डिफिकल्टली इसको डिटरमाइन करते हैं. तो जनरली क्या करते हैं, इसको एक रीजनेबल हम लोग वैल्यू इसमें असाइन कर देते हैं. सो फॉर मोस्ट machines stray losses are taken by convention be 1% of full load output power. So total loss is only the 1% of full load output power. So it is normally given as some definite value, which is a reasonable value for the stray load losses. So it is also very small, and there is one note. There is something called stray powerless is different from stray load losses. So there is one more term, that is stray powerless. That is a different thing. Please don't confuse this with the stray load losses. So this is all about the losses in a DC machine. Thank you everyone for listening.